You know, when you're younger, chums, you don't always appreciate the things that are around you, do you? Because you're just a bit too green, a bit too young, you're fast, you're thinking your career's going at full speed. And what does it matter about the past? Because, you know, you are the future, you are the sort of new blood, aren't you? I think that's part and parcel of what we sometimes forget, that when we look back, we think, wow, that was a wonderful moment to be part, you know, to simply be part of. You know, many years ago, as many of you know, I had, you know, when I was a resting thespian in between things, I was lucky enough to work in some of the most wonderful hotels. And I would recommend it, and particularly in that period, because it taught you really about manners, civility, looking after people, the general public, the demands of what the public wants, and also just to be in these spectacular venues like, you know, the Savoys, the Dorchester, and this particular hotel, which was then called the Hotel Russell in Russell Square. A beautiful terracotta building and vast. I mean, let me tell you, the cellars alone, oh, frightening when you had to go down there late at night. But again, when you're very young and you're working in the banqueting or, you know, in the restaurant or the reception, of which I was doing all the lot, as I say, in between putting shows on or appearing in shows, you learn so much. But what I forgot, which was fascinating in itself, was, well, this, as ever, let me explain. Good to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join me today. Nice to have your company. You know, that hotel, the Hotel Russell, was an amazing place. I mean, just an amazing. It was part of a big group that I was working for at the time. And the big story that they told you, in fact, about the Hotel Russell was that it was one of the very final, well, the Judy Garland fan club used to meet there in the 60s. And apparently one of the final meetings, she just turned up. I think it's online about it, in fact. She turned up unattended just because she knew they were meeting there. Somebody got on a piano, she impromptu gave up, gave a song, all that. Can you imagine stars doing that today? You know, Judy Garland was grateful of the fact that people liked her and, you know, still supported her, even at that point in her career. I think it says a lot. By the time I was at that hotel, it was sort of slightly faded and run down. You see, it'd been built in 1898 and opened in 1900. And what was fascinating about this particular building was they very much, as I've told you before here on the show, they wanted this sort of, how can you put this, the favoritism of the royals, right? Hence the reason in the building outside you will see 4 queens, full-size queens, you know, Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Mary, Queen Victoria herself, and they're all there seemingly because it was like a recognition, a respect really, I suppose you might say, to the monarchy. The designer of the hotel was Charles Fitzroy Dole, and he was a flamboyant designer of that particular period. And as I said, when I was standing in the ballroom and standing in the main restaurant and stuff, you could see there'd been a lot of money. You could imagine these people with these big ball gowns and men with top hats careering through, looking the part, you know, the sort of thing. Incredible really when you think about it. Again, you're too young. It had a magnificent staircase, which was just brilliant, and they hired it out a lot for filming of TV series and movies and stuff like that. But Charles Fitzroy Dole was so popular that, in fact, you know, people thought it was a bit of a work of art, that particular hotel. And so if you were, shall we say, flamboyant and showing off your best and wearing your best, that's where the phrase all dolled up comes from. Yeah, you see, you learn stuff on this channel, right? So if you're all dolled up, it actually comes from that particular era because they felt it was way too flamboyant and, oh, you know, not the right thing. You know what I mean? Fascinating when you think, really. What also is interesting, as I say, is the hotel was so popular that Charles Fitzroy Dole then was the person who was asked and tasked to put up and design the dining room, the first-class dining room on the ill-fated Titanic. And it is based on the same, more or less, design of which is still there today of the Hotel Russell. And what's interesting is even people the night before who were going to embark on the Titanic stayed at that hotel. Incredible to think, isn't it? You know, there's your stop off in London on the way to Southampton, and there you were with a man who designed, you know, literally the first class dining room. Now it's been completely refurbished. It's totally different to what I remember, but all the original things are still intact, including this particular gem, which I had no idea about when you're working there and you're young. It's on the stairwell. It's a bronze dragon. And apparently, if you want any luck in your life, you'd either tap it or rub it each time you went up and down it. I'm not quite sure. I mean, would it still be there, even bronze, all of these years later? But what's fascinating about this is, as I say, sadly for them, Queen Victoria didn't make it to go and open the hotel, but apparently King Edward did. He liked it a lot. As I said to you before here on this show, King Edward loved the finer things in life. And this particular hotel, alongside a sister hotel that they had that was sadly knocked down, I think in the 60s, these were the places to be seen. This was marvellous. And as I said, if you truly were all dolled up, it was all down to the look of this wonderful hotel. And as I said at the start of the video, isn't it stupid when you think back, because you're so young, you don't bother looking into it. You think, it's all right, it's old, I'm moving on. It's only when you look back later on in life, you think, what a privilege to be able to wander around there late at night and soak up all that in. Oh, and yes, it is haunted. Neil Shawn, Kensington, London.